Kenosha has been ravaged by anti-police and anti-American riots. Violent mobs demolished or damaged at least 25 businesses, burned down public buildings, and threw bricks at police officers, which your police officers won't stand for, and they didn't stand for it. These are not acts of peaceful protest, but really domestic terror.
Acts of domestic terror. Strong statement from the president there. We're going to bring in Mark Meadows, White House Chief of Staff, to comment on that. Mark, welcome to the show as always. So do you agree with the president's characterization of rioters as domestic terrorists?
Well, without a doubt, you know, what a terrorist does is try to instill fear, and you don't have to go any further than perhaps even the roads just outside the White House here, where we have a number of these rioters trying to instill fear just in everyday Americans' lives. And so whether you see it here or, as the president was talking about, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, this is a president that has been very clear. He's going to do two things: make sure our communities are safe and that we have a secure future. And so he's addressing both of those, as he did yesterday with the folks in Wisconsin. Listen, the reception was unbelievable. It's amazing when you stand up for safer communities and support law and order, and more importantly, our law enforcement officers, how people of all parties come together in a united way to actually applaud that.
All right, let's talk about coming together. You spoke to Nancy Pelosi yesterday, some type of next rescue package. Can you tell us where you're at negotiation-wise? We know we're at that $3.4 trillion. You're at $1+ trillion. She said she was going to cut $1 trillion off her request. What's the latest?
Well, she still wants to spend half of the money on bailing out state and local governments. Instead of sending the money to people, she wants to send almost $1 trillion to poorly run Democrat cities across the country.
Mark, can I ask you something? Would you actually give money to them and say, hey, this is the earmark. You have to spend it only on this and not on pension plans or on? Can you do that?
We have proposed that, and actually we've given money for that, over $300 billion exactly for that, to help state and local governments to make sure they meet the needs of the American people. The president has been very clear on that, and yet it's been the president who continues to reach out over and over and over again, and we agree on a lot of things. Let's go ahead and get a stimulus check into the hands of the American people. Let's do enhanced unemployment. Let's make sure that we have money for education in K through 12, and let's make sure that we have money for small businesses. We agree on all of that, so let's go ahead and put a bill on the floor. Actually, the Senate Republicans are going to do that next week, but Nancy Pelosi continues to make sure that she stands in the way of not just Republicans and Main Street Americans, but even a lot of her Democrat members are asking her to come back to the table and negotiate in a meaningful way, which she's not.
Speaking of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, your former colleague across the aisle, she's in the news because Fox News got some video of her on Monday afternoon in San Francisco. That's her in the smock. And she got her hair done at the salon, even though indoor personal care is banned in San Francisco since March. And there she is, not wearing a mask. The owner said of it, it was a slap in the face that she went in, you know, that she feels that she can just go and get her stuff done while no one else can go in, and I can't work. We're supposed to look up to this woman, right? It is just disturbing. And her spokesperson said she always wears a mask and follows the rules, and yet, Mr. Meadows, it appears she did not.
Well, listen, this is typical Washington, D.C. They get on national TV, they preach to the American people that it should be one way, and yet in private, when the cameras are not rolling, and in this case, I guess the cameras were rolling, it shows a very different story. It's the same thing whether it's in San Francisco with her going into a salon or in the privacy of a negotiating room. It's time that she gets serious about helping the American people. The president has been willing to do that. In fact, the president is the only one in Washington, D.C. that's acted in the last 4 weeks. We invite her back to the table to hopefully help the American people.
Who's cutting your hair, Mr. Meadows?
Well, I can tell you it's a gal by the name of Kate. It's a shout out to her and all the folks over there. She's not only a great patriot, but a great American from South Korea.
And where's the salon? Where's the barber shop?
Oh, now we'll have all kinds of protesters come to my salon. I think I'm going to pass on that.
That's true.
All right.
All right, Mark. Another topic that we've been covering this morning is that a D.C. committee has made recommendations to either remove, relocate, or contextualize a lot of monuments, statues, some of them on the list: Columbus Fountain, Benjamin Franklin statue, Andrew Jackson statue, Jefferson Memorial, the Washington Memorial is on there, George Washington statue. I mean, the list seems to be expanding day to day. This started as a conversation about Confederate monuments and has bled over. So what do you make of this whole new movement to either remove these monuments or to contextualize them?
Well, listen, this is the least serious thing that you've ever seen come out of Washington, D.C., and also it's the least considered recommendation that you'll ever see. Why don't we talk about removing the protesters from Washington, D.C., and sending them back to wherever they came from, or sending them, better yet, to jail? If we're going to talk about removing things, let's get serious about what Americans think of. Many Americans come to Washington, D.C. to see the Washington Monument, and what are we going to do? Put it in Portland? I mean, come on. This is not a serious recommendation, and something that they shouldn't have even wasted minutes of time with.
Mark, I know you're in Congress in North Carolina. That's your home. And during that time when you were in Congress, and I know that the president's going to be visiting a battleship today in Wilmington, but I also know there was a time in which the president left the White House to go to Walter Reed, and now there's a book out that said he had a series of mini strokes, and we saw CNN rolling out footage of him dragging one of his legs as he was walking. Did the president have a series of mini strokes?
Not at all. I mean, the president and I were laughing about this yesterday. When you see the kind of news that comes out, whether it's in this book or anything else, his doctor actually put out a statement. But when you look at the creative ways that the left tries to go after this particular president, they'll stop at nothing, including mini strokes. But I can tell you, not only is he healthy, but he works me off of my feet. In fact, I'm going to have to go back in to make sure I can keep up with him.
All right. Mark Meadows, North Lawn of the White House with a sharp haircut. Sir, thank you very much for joining us live.
No split ends.
Thanks. Great to be with you.
All right.